Welcome back to Big Whiskey Rebellion. It's Mac McCormick, and we are here at Copper and Kings Brandy Distillery in Louisville.
My name is Daniel Van Dyke, and I work here at Copper and Kings Distillery in small little butcher town, Louisville, Kentucky. So basically, we were founded in 2012, opened to the public in 2014. We're now owned by Constellation Brands. That happened about 3 years ago. So when we head on inside, we'll end up seeing 4 of our pot stills, all custom designed for us by Vendome Copper and Brass Works,
Oh, wow.
who also happens to be our neighbor. They're actually located 5 blocks west of us.
I had no idea.
So they custom designed several aspects of the stills for us. Then we'll run down and we'll look at some barrels, because barrels are fun.
Yeah.
And from there, we'll probably have to try something else. So basically, the stills, like I said, designed by Vendome. There's a couple of features that are unique for the production of brandy here for us. Of course, we're going to be using a pot still.
Right.
We want to use a pot still because it allows a lot more oil and flavor concentrators to move through the system.
Yes.
We don't want to use a column still because it's going to strip all of that out, which we left with alcohol.
Right.
And like one of the big things for distillation for us is we want to be true to the fruit, primarily going to be grapes and apples in our case. Now the stills themselves, the unique features, top component up here is called a brandy helmet or a brandy onion.
Yeah.
That basically helps in the fact of giving us greater copper contact because of that top opening being more constricted than the bottom opening.
It's funny, I've never actually been in a brandy distillery. That was one of the first things I saw, because it's like shaped very different than the ones I've seen.
Yeah, so that's actually, we designed that with the help of Vendome to force more copper contact by spreading it out more.
Right.
So as that vapor comes up, that hits the sides and it'll just start doing these convection currents around and around and around. That eventually cools it down enough to cause the reflux to happen to fall back in the still.
Oh, cool.
The next most important feature is this horizontal copper guide, and that's our condenser. Now, for our purposes, we want to slowly cool the vapor into a liquid. We don't want to flash chill it. So we don't want that thumper mechanism that you'll see in a lot of column distilleries. So when that vapor first hits the front part of that condenser, it's going to be met by a manifold and then split into a series of smaller pipes. It's going to allow us to go from about 180 to 190 degrees down to around 100 degrees.
Are you doing a liquid cooling or air cooling?
It's going to be water bath at that point.
Yeah.
So we'll go water bath in the horizontal. We'll then come to the vertical product cooling tower here, the stainless piece. That's going to be glycol chilled. That way we can better control the temp, get it down to 60 degrees. So we're at that calibrated temperature to check the proof level using a hydrometer, and the spirit's safe.
Very cool.
There's 4 stills.
Okay.
Each one was named after a leading lady in a Bob Dylan song. The original owners were super into music. Pretty much everybody here is still super into music. They actually chose the name Copper and Kings. Copper for the pot stills and Kings because it reminded them of a band name.
Oh, crazy.
The largest one over here is Rosemarie. She's 2,000 gallons. She's the workhorse in the most recent edition. Next in size over here is Isis. She's 1,000 gallons. It's followed by Magdalena right in front of us. She's 750 gallons. And then Maggie's little sister, the experimental still, is Sarah at 50 gallons.
So, odd side fact, my grandfather lived right next door to Bob Dylan in Duluth, Minnesota.
Really?
Yeah.
The cool thing about Sarah and Maggie, though, is that they actually have a gin head or a gin basket on them, so we can flavor our gins in absence.
Oh, cool.
Little Sarah, hers is this vertical stainless canister right behind the condenser here. And then Maggie's is actually on the second floor, is right behind where we were tasting earlier.
Oh, cool.
It's a much larger version of it. It basically just allows us to do vapor distillation, where we can pack that full of citrus botanicals, run that hot vapor in line up through the bed of ingredients. So we get all the essence of the ingredients, but none of the off flavors you would get if we macerated directly into the still.
The Bowman pot still, kind of the riff off of this, I think it's got a very different top. It's interesting because I go up there a lot because it's 45 minutes away.
Yeah.
But yeah, this place is awesome. I mean, I love the setup. I can imagine it's like Hades in here though in July when you're distilling.
We don't distill in July.
Oh, okay.
July and August, our cooling towers and boilers are outside, so we can't meet the demands of them to actually get it cooled down enough. Plus, seasonality of our sugar source. Grapes and apples, once you're through that harvest,
Oh, sure.
you can find stuff on the open market, but there's only going to be so much availability of that new
Probably
product.
higher price too.
And lesser quality because it's kind of have time to sit around.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Very cool.
Barrels?
Yes.
Let's do some barrels.
That's pretty cool how you mark your barrels with the type of fruit.
Yeah, so these are actually pretty fun. These guys are, I think, really interesting. This is what we just did this season. Whereas most of our apples, we're going to use a specific yeast to ferment them. These were wild fermented. So we just use yeast and bacteria that was on the skin of the apple.
That's awesome.
It also means we didn't get our alcohol percentages as high. So our yield post double distillation was much lower.
Yeah.
But the flavor profile of the eau de vie, that kind of white lightning going in there, was super delicious.
Nice.
So I'm really excited about trying these in the near future, especially because I love cider.
Yeah.
And these were those zebra barrels I just mentioned in a second ago. We tried it a little bit earlier.
Very cool.
So this is the Columbard one with the white wine head.
Okay.
New white oak head on the other side. And then alternating used bourbon, new white oak, used bourbon, new white oak heads.
Just as a barrel maker, that had to have been fun to make.
I know. I think they're probably, it's like recycling your scraps slash, whatever you need to do for it. Basically, we use about 80% used bourbon barrel, 20% new make white oak barrels, toasted and charred, made for us by Kelvin Cooperage. They're a set of Scottish brothers who make barrels for a lot of other people. They also do a lot of barrel brokering, especially over to Scotland for Asian Scotch. But the big thing down here, twofold. One, we want to age our product in a climate control environment.
Sure.
We don't want the same kind of thermocycling that bourbon sees, where you really get it deep in and out of the wood. The other aspect is, because we're using those pot stills, a lot of the oils from those seeds and skins of the grapes and apples move into our final products. So we need a way to move it. Thus the music.
Right.
We do something called sonic aging.
Yeah.
Basically, nights and weekends, we crank this music all the way up. There are 4 subwoofers down here and 8 other speakers.
Oh, wow.
So we get as loud as we can, it'll vibrate the floor we were just on, and the hope is that it keeps that brandy very gently moving in the barrel.
See, Dad, it was good. I was listening to loud music. It's helping me age.
Exactly. So what we'll do is we'll crank it all the way up during the Stone song, so you can get an idea about how loud it gets.
Okay.
Here we go. We're gonna get loud.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Like a drum. Yeah, it rumbles in.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Other fun stuff, the Raven barrel here is a single variety of Zinfandel brandy in a Zinfandel barrel.
Oh, crazy.
The Mustang is a Syrah brandy in a Syrah barrel. This rack of 5 right here are all what were bourbon barrels that then went down to Mexico and held tequila for any number of years.
That'd be it.
So it's an apple brandy with tequila in it, it's a tequila barrel with apple brandy in it.
Yeah.
It's delicious. I do not like tequila, and I love that product.
I can see what would happen there, because tequila on the back note always has kind of like this smoky honey quality to it that a lot of people don't even notice in the flavor. Black Button is a gin, isn't it?
Black Button does gin and whiskeys, I believe, in New York.
Okay.
That was one of their whiskey barrels. A lot of those new distilleries are going to use a smaller barrel for surface area to volume ratio. And they met at some conference, and they're like, "Oh, cool, we'll do something fun with it."
Yeah.
So now we have a red and Black Button.
We don't have their whiskeys, but we have their gins in my restaurant. That's why I recognized it. What do you try to keep this room at year-round?
So we don't actively climate control it.
Okay.
We're surrounded by earth on 3 sides.
Oh, cool.
So we had the very slow temperature swings. So we don't have that active as well. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So like in winter, it doesn't usually get much below. Like you're not going to see your breath down here in winter.
Right.
I mean, unless that door's open the entire day.
Right.
In the summer, it will get fairly warm down here, but it's never as warm as it is upstairs.
That's cool.
Biggest thing when you come down here in the summer is it can be sometimes dry outside. It's still going to be humid down here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that makes sense because you're below ground.
Yep. Below ground plus, spirits.
Yeah. They're evaporating in the
That's why they always say the cellar's haunted. It's full of spirits.
So thanks for joining us again at Big Whiskey Rebellion. If you're ever in Louisville, definitely hit up Copper and Kings. It's really cool. And, people just think of bourbon when they come here, but I actually, so far, have really enjoyed this distillery tour more than most because the personal attention was just outstanding. See you guys.